Even if you carry a firearm, and maybe even particularly if you do, you need to know how to fight with your hands to protect yourself. Hi everyone, it's John with today's active self-protection lesson out of Bradenton, Florida. Here we're going to see a police officer, Lieutenant William Weldon, who is going to get into a life or death struggle with a guy who has robbed a jewelry store. We're going to learn some very important lessons here about what is deadly force and what is not, about how to use our tools effectively, and some about the differences between a CCW holder and a law enforcement officer. You can see the burglar, whose name is Isaac Dubon, on the left side here, and Lieutenant Weldon comes in through the busted-in door with his pistol drawn because this is a forcible burglary, and his flashlight in hand. Now he tells the guy to put his flashlight down and knocks it out of his hand. And now you're going to see the guy surrender. And so Lieutenant Weldon puts his firearm away and tries to take the guy into custody. And a fight ensues. The guy gets combative at that point. I've sped it up to triple speed here just for the sake of time. But if you go watch the original, there is 90 seconds here of this fight, or actually almost a minute and 45 seconds that they're going to grapple here. And you see him going after his eyes there. You see Dubon going after Lieutenant Weldon's eyes. He goes after his firearm a couple of times as well. So clearly this one's escalated into a deadly force encounter. Very significant here. And finally, he's going to be able to get just a little distance here in a second. And we're going to finally see Lieutenant Weldon get a little distance from this guy, utterly exhausted for sure, and draw his firearm. Well, the guy kind of puts his hands up a little bit again, and Lieutenant Weldon doesn't want to get back into a fight, so he uses his firearm as a club and just absolutely cold cocks him there. Knocks him cold as a block of ice. And finally, backup arrives just late enough to do nothing except for cuff and stuff this guy. And that's what he's going to do. And so you can see Lieutenant Weldon there just absolutely wiped out. He's going to get taken to the hospital for some damage to his eyes, but thankfully the news story I have says it looks like he's going to fully recover, and they cuff and stuff this guy, and this one is over. Let's go back and learn some significant lessons out of this one, both for law enforcement and for CCWs. There's 8 on my website like always, but here's some very important ones. We see Lieutenant Weldon come in here to this one, and just a couple interesting bits. You can see him here using what we call the Harry's technique. To keep his light in his hand. I always recommend a pistol-mounted light, especially, if you open carry a gun, a pistol-mounted light is, just silly not to have. Then we're going to see him knock this item out of the guy's hand. He's got compliance just a little bit, but he wants to get that tool out of his hand so he can't use it as a striking implement. That's a pretty wise decision in my opinion. And now he's going to take the guy into custody, so he has to put his light down. And do you notice now he's got to put his gun away? And you say, why did he put his gun away in this instance? Because he has to take the guy into custody. Now, as a law enforcement officer, that's his job. As a CCW holder, if you're not a law enforcement officer, you're not going to do this. You're going to keep your gun out, tell the guy to get on the ground, keep it at some significant distance from him, but he can't do that as a cop. So he's got to put his gun away and now try to take him into custody. Well, the guy gets combative, and here's where we start making these lessons that even if you carry a gun, you have to have grappling skills, you got to have close fighting skills. And as you see here, he's trying to go get the officer's gun. He's trying to get Lieutenant Weldon's gun there, and you need to have weapon retention skills. If you openly carry a firearm, you absolutely have to have a retention holster, a quality retention holster, which I recommend the Safariland ALS. So you're seeing him here just really get after it. And right there you can see that he's reaching over and trying to grab that lieutenant's eyes. He's trying to gouge his eyes out. You got to know how to defend yourself against that. That's something that you learn on the mat in combatives class or martial arts. Got to have that kind of some kind of an answer for that. And a couple of other things here. We see him really grappling and going at it. This is a matter of physical fitness and being able to stay in the fight and go longer than the other guy, as well as no positioning and being able to make small incremental improvements and diminish your opponent a little at a time. Now he finally gets a little bit of space and goes to the gun. And you ask the question, wait a minute, we know this guy doesn't have a gun on him, so is a gun justified? Absolutely, he's justified to draw a firearm in this instance. The guy's gone for his gun, tried to gouge his eyes out, showed deadly intent, and now Lieutenant Weldon is absolutely gassed. He's been fighting like crazy. And so this would be certainly an instance where deadly force is justified. Had he shot this guy right here, I don't think anybody would have given him a hard time about it. Given the entirety of the circumstances, it would have been reasonable for him to believe that he faced a deadly threat and used deadly force to stop that threat. But he didn't, so kudos to him for that. And instead he decides to use his gun as a force multiplier, but a blunt trauma one. I wouldn't normally recommend that, of course. It's dangerous to do. You're pointing the gun in all kinds of directions, and you got to make sure that it doesn't go off and whatever. It worked very effectively here, but it wouldn't be what I would recommend that you use something else instead. But it worked for him here. I'm certainly not giving him a hard time about it. And finally, backup arrives just after everything is done. Even for the police, the old adage, when seconds count, backup is minutes away, or the police are only minutes away. absolutely applies here. So in the end, we learned a lot about knowing when deadly force is authorized, putting the gun away when it's not, having the grappling skills and the physical fitness to be able to stay in the fight, and using what you have available to end the threat no matter what. Kudos to Lieutenant Weldon for doing a fantastic job of not taking this man's life, of fighting for his life and covering his asp.